Truth Table News World. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Your humble host, Armando Gonzalez here, bringing you a special Sunday edition, of Truth Table News World. So welcome to the table. Hope you guys had a great Christmas. We're waiting on the new year, studio audience. Yeah, alive and well in the house. We also have Ghost joining us today. Ghost, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing fine, doing much of nothing.
Much of nothing. Yeah, none of us are
Mhm.
doing much of nothing lately. Just eating a lot and hopefully partaking in some nice beverages and just enjoying time off. I love it. It's great.
All the above.
All right. Well, just to let you guys know, welcome back. Hope you guys had a great holiday. Also, just to get some stuff out of the way here really quick before we kick off. So today we're going to be covering the Western Hemisphere and why it is crucially important going into 2026. And we're going to dive into some details, talking basically about key countries, in the Western Hemisphere that are going to play a vital role, in my opinion, towards President Trump's agenda, if you will, and how that's going to benefit America. We hope, anyway. Right. So let's just cover some commercials here real quick before we kick this thing off. So if you guys are new to the channel, oh, by the way, we're also live streaming over on YouTube right now. Okay. So if you guys prefer to go over on YouTube and watch the stream from there, more than welcome to do it. All I ask is for you guys to drop a follow over on YouTube. We're trying to get to the minimum requirements over on YouTube as far as watch hours are concerned and as far as subscribers are concerned on YouTube. So maybe hopefully in 2026, we can get to the point where we can start monetizing on over there also as well. But for now, we're not there. We haven't met that threshold yet. And hopefully we will. All right. So let's just go through this here real quick. So if you guys see the QR code in your upper screen and you want links to everything here on Truth Table News World, go there, just scan that QR code and it'll add you to my digital business card. That's what they call it, right? It's a digital business card. You have access to all my links there. If you prefer not to do that and you want to go over to buy me a coffee, it is wintertime, right? And it's cold outside, baby, right? Well, it's been weird here. It's been in the 65, 70s. I can't say that for the Northeast. So if you're up there, sorry. I know it's snowing like hell. But anyway, you can go over to https://buymeacoffee.com/TTNW, and I would greatly appreciate a cup of Java and the support there as well. If you're not into the coffee scene, you can go over to Cash App, all right, and hit me up there to support the channel, cash.app/$ Truth Table News World. You can get me there. Also, first and foremost, and lastly here, right, let me get rid of that Cash App deal. There you go. We now have merch. That's right. Truth Table News World has now merch. Again, you can access the Truth Table News World merch store, again, by clicking on the QR code, and it has a link in there for the merch store. You can go over there and check it out. I'm trying to put new stuff up there, and there will be new stuff coming in January to expand to the inventory out there. You can go ahead and go. There's a link scrolling on the bottom of your screen. You can go there if you want to go and support the channel there by buying some 444 Media merch. Okay. It's good stuff. All right. Okay. And with that, let's go over and get into the monologue. All right. So why is this important? It's important today to know about what's really going on in key countries in the Western Hemisphere, because I believe, in my opinion, that each one of these countries is going to be playing a vital role come 2026 as far as precious metals, rare earth minerals, such lithium, silver, gold. And speaking of silver, you guys know that silver is now hovering $79+, and it's just going to continue to rise. The banks, on a global level are now rallying, around silver purchasing. Why do you think that is? Well, they're all insolvent, all of them. And once they dive in and start hoarding silver the way that they are, all right, they can back that up using what? XRP, XLM, Bitcoin, the crypto space. We are going to be seeing a shift from fiat to quantum, in my opinion, again. Now, what's the stymie in that? Well, China has now just came out with a report stating that they're not going to export silver anymore. Huh, isn't that funny? Right? They're just not going to, which is just going to drive the price even higher. Ghost, what do you think about that? Is he here? Yep, there he is.
Sorry, I had the mute button on. Well, it's interesting. The price is up to 79 and change. I think it was 79.60 when I checked it earlier today, something like that, 65. And this kind of thing was, in my humble opinion, this was the end game, because it's not, said this before and I'm going to say it again. It's not, this time it isn't about following the money. It's about the money and how it's issued, and will there be private ownership of it? I don't mean you possessing it or anybody else. I mean those who print it, own it, and make the rules behind it. And it's wonderful to see that many, many millions are waking up to those facts, because the temporal hold that humanity's been in for so long has been over the control of how commerce was valued and exchanged. What was in exchange for goods and services, or any number of things. Everything is commerce.
Yep.
And ultimately, this is a long discussion, but what I see happening is this is how you pull away from the fiat fractional reserve lending system. You don't want to fight it, because it's easy to get into wars and scuffles over things like that, or they're going to fight back. You just stop playing, and you do move over to something new. And there's been a lot of, I consider, psyops out there. Some I've confirmed, others I just don't have to. You can tell what they are. Have a lot of people in dreamland about large sums of money and all this other stuff, and it's just not happening. And that's not the way it will happen. And they're baiting them in again by their good intentions, with the idea of humanitarian service projects and things like that. I've seen all this stuff. And this is just, look, if it's too good to be true, it's usually a psyop.
Yeah, it probably is, right?
Too bad to be true, it's usually a psyop. And they're coming out left and right. They could do that because people, by and large, are generally good and good-hearted and want the best for themselves and those around them. But it's diverted a lot of attention away. Many things have, and I'll go to the opposite side. All the little squabbles. Look, the day that young man was shot, Charlie Kirk, it made me sick to my stomach. Because, wait a minute, they're going to blame it on a lone nut job. And notice how it all disappears so quickly now, even with the attempt on the president when he was running for the second term. They just, nothing happens. You don't hear anything. Why? Because it's in your face. You know what it is. They know you know what it is. They tried it anyway. It's mafia rules at a certain level. And I mean way above governments. I'm talking about the level of true sovereign layer, where they own the institutions that print and are responsible for the free flow of the money. So what do? You changed it. Remember, a long time ago, I was telling people, you don't try to beat the game with anyone who comes from the long lineage of 400 or 500 years who created the game, and those who've co-managed the game with them. I don't know, Vatican, excuse me. And other, the sneezes are funny these days, So
Yeah.
much, so much stuff in the air. You sneeze funny sometimes, but you don't change the game. You don't. I mean, you don't fight them at their game. You create the new one. Now, look at what the president's sons are involved in. What did the president say? Because here's a man that when he says something, he's not he's not a politician. He's a businessman. He's saying this is what I'm going to do. If we're going to have crypto, we're going to be the best at it, and we're going to dominate it as America. And the problem is the deep state apparatus left a horrible mess that goes way deeper in subtle ways than most people ever talked about. I've referred to it as bureaucratic sedition. It could be someone who's just, employee of the month in his office or her office, and they slow up paperwork. Or that's the simple stuff. And then you have what is technically two or more conspiratorial, because they know what all of this represents. It represents a faction that had been part of running the world that now is going to probably take over. How? Create a new game. The president's sons are highly involved in what? Crypto. What cryptos? Well, I'll say a few later that I think they're working with. I'll say it right now. Bitcoin as the reserve. What the dollar is today. I think it went from 126,000 down to 90,000 per coin, and that would be like your dollar reserve currency. XRP, possibly XLM, depending on what DTCC does with it, and one called WFI.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few more out there, but there's too many of them out there. Everyone jumped on the bandwagon. Everybody thinks that life is a get rich quick scheme. Yes, it is, for less than a thousandth or 100,000th of a fraction of a percent. By the time it reaches everyone else, no matter when you got into it, no, that's not the case. And in doing crypto, utilizing the newer systems, artificial intelligence and blockchain obviously is involved in all that. And that's all these things have been being improved over time. You see I think one of the big cheeses over at BlackRock, for example. And I'm not just going to sit here and name names. You can find it; it's out there. I think is heavily invested into crypto now, and invested in a lot of traditional um, investments. Elon Musk is now coming out and pushing Bitcoin and others. Harder than, in a sense, harder than they ever before. Look at what these people are doing, not necessarily what they're saying, because you don't want to say much. You don't ever want to give away the edge. And that's the way to do it. And I think what we're going to see is a temporary shift in economic blocks. I don't think we're going to have this, Orwellian three-state solution where they war back and forth, and then finally they get their globalist government. Look, this is simple. It's very simple. You have globalists, which is tyranny. There's no other way to say it. And then you have those who believe in freedom and liberty and natural born rights that are inalienable, can't be touched. They're not given to you by any government. They can be curtailed. You can always exchange rights for privileges and then pay a fee or a tax or a uh, um, like you would for a permit, in a sense.
Yeah.
Or we can start to put this country back together. Number one, you have to have a strong foundation to do it. Money isn't a foundation. Unfortunately, it is the foundation worldwide. And so humanity grows up a little more. This is the way it's going to be. And that's not going to be in any of our lifetimes, I can tell you that. But if you look at what's happening, it is not no shift or growth of any kind is painless. It's painful, it's uncertain, but in reality, life is uncertain anyway. So most adults should be used to that by now. If you're not, get comfortable with change because it is the only thing that is constant. Some things never change, maybe, but most things do all the time, day by day. So I think we're moving into an area where this is where the game's been building the whole time. You can't, if you want a restored republic with a government that is smaller, that recognizes your rights and does not demand you exchange them for privileges unless you're a dipshit, and then a better system of law, not bar run would take care of you. If you can't govern yourself accordingly, people will make sure you do, because all you do is cause harm. And as soon as you cause harm to persons or property, and in the future, human beings and property, um, you've crossed the line. That's what an outlaw used to be called. You were outside the law. You were not under the protection of the law because you chose to go a different way. You wanted to steal people's money instead of think and do and work or whatever it is in your capacity to do to create that. And everyone has something they can do. So I think we're looking at a time where we're finally getting to where, yes, now what's the flip side of this? The pushback. And what do these assholes typically like to do? These globalists release pathogens, expertly engineered. Um, because Armando, how do you know? How do you know that? Okay, those who got the jab, yes, they hurt themselves. We know that. But what if they release a pathogen that won't bond with those proteins, yet will bond with yours and mine, and has a very high mortality rate? All of these things are possible. And don't ever say, oh, well, that's not going to happen, because if somebody would have told you 2 buildings are going to fall, and somebody did try to do that, and he was murdered that November of that year. But if somebody said, hey, they're going to do something really horrible, and it's going to be so horrible, and it might be this or that or this, we don't know, but it's coming. Most people are in denial. They don't want to hear that.
Yeah, true.
And that's unfortunate, but anything is possible. Anything. So never underestimate how they will try to kick back at this. But if you create a new game and you restructure the playing field and you take all the nations that have truly been harmed by this central banking system, you'll find it's the United States. You'll find it's Russia. You'll find it's China. What about the opium trade? They tried to decimate the population of China with communism that blossomed in Russia. You can thank your local banksters for that. Not local, but you know what I mean in history.
Mm-hmm.
And they made sure that it was exported to China. And other than those in power, there are always reasonable minds throughout the population, more than you think. And when they know what's in front of them, they make better choices. And they make better choices usually than any of these entities that their number one goal is not you. The government as it stands right now is a corporation. So its number one goal by nature is to preserve itself. You're secondary. You're secondary. You can tell that the way, we treat the aged, how we treat veterans, number of things. So, there's been so much propaganda spread out there about those who say, want to reserve the Constitution because we're not ready for bigger global government. And I don't think that's going to be a necessary thing. It's something that I think we'll evolve into probably 200 years from now because it'll just make common sense. Because number one, we realize we're not alone in this, and then we'll find, hey, the Earth isn't flat either. Sorry if you're butt hurt by that, and you'll find out that there are literally trillions of other civilizations out there. The numbers in the universe bear it out, or trillions of planets with life and intelligent life, where they might be, who knows? But it's all incremental. It all has to go step by step. And we're going to find out where you've been lied to in history concretely, more so. But it's not going to be an easy road there. This is a battle. So what I foresee the smart thing to do would be stop all this, let's say, beef up counterintelligence stateside to what it should be. So a lot of these foreign actors can get the hell out of here. Chinese, Russian, whoever they may be.
Yep.
But ultimately, it's in all of our best interest to become an economic bloc that would render both BRICS and the European Union unnecessary or secondary. And this is why I think they pushed Brexit.
And we're going to talk, we're going to tap into that as we continue. Now, going back to crypto here, MP20, first of all, yeah, well, Wild Dreams, welcome to the chat. Thanks for stopping by. I haven't seen you here before, but welcome. Glad that you're here. Thank you very much for stopping by. Sam Spencer, hello, welcome to the broadcast. Roger 7 Ranger, welcome, welcome. MP20 had a very good question as far as crypto is concerned when you were talking about that. She says on here, are they going to encourage the public to deposit their silver in crypto accounts and then have a loophole to tax it? That's a good question. I don't know about that.
I don't know the mechanics of it. I'm just trying to give a broader picture today. I don't know what would finally be decided on. No, I don't think it would be taxed because ultimately you could easily run everything that's run by borrowing from this foreign parasite, foreign-based parasite. You could, if you simply tax one thing, commerce, but not crazily. You know, there would have to be, say, a constitutional convention if you wanted to raise it after a 10% mark. 10% is really all it takes.
Be talking about a flat tax or something like that, or
I'm talking about, a commerce tax. If you do business or you buy or sell, that's when you pay it. You don't pay it on what you make or earn.
Got it. So you get that little index card at the end of the year saying, "Hey, 10% of all your purchases, and here you go." I think a lot of people will be on board with that idea. Actually, I would probably. I mean, hell, why not?
It's been around for 35 years.
Yeah.
But those who pushed it and showed you the math that it would work usually got relegated to the sidelines. Their characters were attacked and they were hit with legal troubles and rendered useless. This is how these shitbags do it and have done it traditionally. Maybe 10, 20 years from now, that won't be such a smart thing to do. And yes, there's a lot of criminality that has to be dealt with beforehand. That's what's happening now. That's what's been happening. And I honestly think that certain things are out there that are real-time mapping everything using AI, but to find out what needs to be cleaned up and then what the cost of that cleanup is. Not what it costs to clean it up, but what the cost of taking that it's illegal source of money, human trafficking, or the illegal organ trade, drugs, of course, and all these cartels. That's a lot of money each year. It's a few $1 trillion. That's trillions of hard cash moving through these things. And you have to get this criminality and this criminal aspect out of the way first. Globally, I would imagine you have about 6 million that need to be bagged and tagged and sat down and then put away, or worse
Yeah.
for them. Good for you, humanity. But all of these things take time. The president has repeated over and over, we're going into a golden age. You don't just waltz into a golden age and turn a key and everything's great. No, it's going to be a painful process. That is why we've been cleaning out the dirt bags who've been strategically placed here, cells with radical ideologies, whether it's anything from Antifa wackadoodles to radical Islamists.
Yeah.
They're all the same, just a different color uniform, just a different way. They're all fucking morons, basically, who can be radicalized over the dumbest things. And unfortunately, that's always been a weapon since the last 120 years.
Yeah.
Very effective weapon. It changed everything in Russia, changed everything in China, it changed a lot of the way we had to do things here. And it also affected here when we had president after president, from Jefferson to Madison to Henry Ford to Napoleon, all saying, Napoleon basically said central bankers are without basically conscience or morals, and they're the most disgusting among us because they have no allegiance nor honor, that kind of thing. Jefferson said, if you allow a central bank to inflate, deflate, and control the money supply, you're basically, I'm paraphrasing, but your descendants will wake up on a continent homeless and losing everything. Isn't that what that's been attempted?
Yeah.
But we need to clean out the shitbags in this country, number one, meaning the trained terrorists. I don't like to use terrorists because none of that should scare us. It should be something we look at that we have to fight if it's in your face. Do what it's going to try to do to you, to it. I think the message should be made abundantly clear that anyone that wants to conspire to release another pathogen, nuke the fuckers. Okay?
Well, speaking of that, let me interject here real quick. And maybe you guys in the chat here have seen the same thing I have. I don't know. But for some apparent reason, the pandemic ended a long time ago, right? Mask mandates ended a long time ago, even though they're still trying to push that shit back. But here's what I don't understand. I'm confused about it because either A, they know something that we don't, that they know that is coming, or they've been mind fornicated, so badly that they just can't break out of that spell. When I go out in public here recently, especially when I went to go see my new granddaughter over at the hospital, I've noticed that Asian people, now I don't know if they're Chinese, Korean, Filipino, what have you, don't know. No, and don't care really.
They like masks. They always have.
Why are they still wearing freaking masks? I don't get it.
They're laboring. They're laboring under. They're laboring. Look, Rogar knows exactly what I'm going to say. They're laboring under an illusion. When you wear a mask when you're attending to a patient, that's blocking your shit from the patient, not blocking anything from outside getting to you. There is no filter. If you sneeze, if you're operating on somebody, you don't turn your head the other way because you're blowing back. That's one other purpose of the mask. It blows your air back to the sides of your head. You don't want it coming up under your nose. If you wear glasses, they'll fog up. But you're blowing it back and down and not onto a sterile field. And
yeah, but see,
they might help in some respects with people with breathing abnormalities. that's still debatable. You need a respirator if you're really going to a closed respirator that forms a seal on your face if you're going to do that. But other than that, it's just a feel good prophylactic, and I don't mean the kind that you get that are well greasy.
Yeah, it just blows my mind that do they do they still believe that hey, COVID is still here and so we're gonna wear it, and it's Asians, man. I mean, like like Chinese, Korean, whatever, that type of Asian, right? Masks.
Hmm.
You walk into a
It's
restaurant,
that's been
your
for
waitresses are the same
decades.
thing at a sushi bar, same thing. I'm like, what in the hell? Why? I don't. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was just curious because yeah, that new flu bug is here. That new flu bug, from what I hear, is starting to circulate around people, especially people I know. It's really wreaking havoc on them, especially the little ones, especially at schools. Okay, so you guys with little ones at school, be mindful of that. All right, be mindful of what's coming because they're preaching about that crap too, especially in January. It's
And
supposed to go, supersonic warp speed, whatever. I hate to use that term, but that's what they're pushing. And of course, dickhead over there at Microsoft, Bill Gates, he's like, well, we have a vaccine.
oh my
No,
God,
forget that. Nobody's buying into that vaccine bullshit anymore. Stop it. You know what I mean? But whatever.
no, no, he should, for every time someone gets a vax, he should get a needle stuck in him. Let's see how long he lasts.
Yeah.
He's just a pathetic wretch, and a poor, very poor excuse for a front man for your. If that's your best front man for your globalists, I think we're in a good position to change the game completely, and then they don't own it and master it, and they can't. They can try, and they're already trying through what? Precious metals.
Uh huh. There you
There's
go.
the positioning right now, and
Bingo.
that's you have gold, silver, platinum, palladium, rhodium, and a few and the non the base metals, zinc, copper, and iron, and a few others that you can buy futures on, or you can buy physical. I don't see myself buying much physical iron. That's kind of heavy and abundant. But if you hold on to your silver, if you need some money right now and you can spare a little bit of your stash, yeah, you can make something on what you paid for it. If you paid anywhere between 15 and 25, you'll do fine. I think if you weigh, you can probably see 1 to 200, somewhere in that range soon enough. And
Look for
it's
Pokemon
possible
cards.
it's possible for a short time for it to go to 400.
I'm
But this,
telling
I've
you.
been saying this for 8, 9 years. There will come a time. There will come a time, and maybe this is it.
Yeah, you have. I remember it clearly. Those of you out there that have Pokemon cards, going way back, I hear they're bringing in big money right now if you got Pokemon cards. So you might want to go ahead and just sell those things off and buy silver. I don't know, just an idea.
I would, but
But
we are not financial professionals, and we're not telling you what to do. We're just giving you our humble opinion of what we might do, or I might do, or he might do. But
MP here says,
I'm
how about buying shares in silver mining companies? There's another idea.
mining stocks are actually good. That's the only stock I think, if I were to buy a stock I would buy, would be mining, specialty mining, and more blue chip mining, like your copper and your iron. But as far as gold, there's still seams out there that are well known of the Barbara seam in Zimbabwe. I don't know if they started mining that or not. Estimated 2 million ounces of gold in that. We've got seams in this country that we know where they are because we have technology now that can easily find all of this. Whereas you had to do speculative drilling before. All
Mm-hmm.
that cost, you can take a 30 to 150-watt device and walk on the ground and pretty much know what's under you, whether it's oil, gas, water, metals. There's so many different sensing technologies that have really shot up in efficiency and capabilities that these things now are pretty much mapped out. And like I was telling, like we were talking earlier today briefly, if Nevada itself started mining all of its gold, not silver, it's called the silver state. Still a lot of silver reserves there in the mountains and ground. But if they were mining their gold to capacity, they'd be the fourth largest gold producer on the planet. So
Wow.
between the Canadian Rockies all the way down into Mexico, really, and South America, there's probably everything we all need. But again, it's this fighting over the resources stuff. It'll be in a different way in the future. Instead of you've got to get away from this pathetic kinetic nonsense when it comes down to this. But you have to be ready for that at all times. Always still be the biggest hammer out there in case these things crop up, which they will in different ways, but in areas of the world that we're not used to talking about, like right now in Africa in a few areas. Um, you have a country that has really come a long way in stabilizing itself. Uganda, Zimbabwe, some difficulties in Niger and Nigeria and a few other locations. And yeah, they are severe, but they also in dealing with these problems. Number one, you're getting people who, and this bears repeating always, the most persecuted group of people on this planet every day are not the Muslims or Jews, or it's Christians.
Mm-hmm.
No one says it enough, and no one says it loud enough. Just read the reports on Christian deaths every day compared to all of them, and you'll find out, oh, a bus was wiped out in Shitfuckistan, and you're like, oh, that figures. But it was a busload of Christians, and they don't like to report that on the news
No. Uh-uh.
because they wanted all of Western civilization to lose that one identity that made us actually the most, let's say, when it comes right down to it, caring and nice people. Because Jesus didn't say, hey, uh, love everyone and do unto others as you'd have done unto yourself, unless they're a woman not wearing a veil, then stone her to death. No, he didn't talk like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of them didn't. A lot of that was injected over time. You got to understand, mind and slave mind control goes back to the times of Babylon and prior. Remember that you're in a large temporal playhouse, but it's not very pretty now, right now, because everything, I've said this for years, and it bears out every year. Every year, what you think you know is wrong. And when you think you figured a lot of things out, there's always a higher apparatus at work. Find it. A lot of times you have to use inversion skills, and let's say these are mental gymnastics, but they help you in the long run. Don't let them weigh you down. If you find them weighing you down, stop. Do something else for a week or two. Watch TV, good movie or good documentaries. Read a good book. Do something else. Engage with people and not devices. Wow, that's a new one.
Yeah.
And yeah, just be aware of the fundamentals and the foundations and what those that are attached to them are doing, not what they're saying, but what they're doing. It will tell you whether it's good, indifferent, or bad every time. You shall know them by their deeds. And, well, that's all that I've got to say about that. No, just for
Awesome.
now. I
Thanks
want
for
to
that.
hear you.
Yeah, well, no. We're here to learn, right? So it is like that. All right, guys, we're gonna dive into the topic of tonight. Okay, we're gonna go on a back and forth here. Just to, I wanted to do this tonight on a special edition. I know it's Sunday. Usually we come on Thursdays, but because of the holidays, I said, hey, let's go ahead and do this on a Sunday, just for shits and grins, whatever. Uh, we may go ahead and do a New Year's one also as well, but we'll talk a little bit about New Year's towards the end of today's broadcast. I just wanted to let you guys know we are streaming over on YouTube. So those of you that don't care for Rumble, no worries. You can go over to YouTube, Truth Table News World over on YouTube, and you can pop into the live chat. I've got it up here on screen. And if you're there, if you have not gone there yet, kindly give me a sub. I'm trying to see if I can get to the 4,000 hour views and 1,000 subscribers over there. Got a long road to cover there. Just so we can do a little bit more expansion and a little bit more flexibility for you guys out there in the audience. So I would appreciate that. All right. So for tonight, we are going to go ahead and jump into the Western Hemisphere and why it's critically important moving into 2026, because we are going to be seeing a lot of changes on a weekly basis, a lot of drastic changes that are going to rattle your minds. Just believe me when I tell you that. All right. So, the new battle for the Americas, why the Western Hemisphere is becoming a global flashpoint. Okay, this is critically important for you to know. This was a write-up by Nick Giambruno, okay, via internationalman.com. So why this matters, why does it matter to all of us in America? You know, it's simply this: cleaning house from all foreign adversaries, foreign and most importantly, domestic, like Ghost said earlier, going into 2026. And in my opinion, the test is to see whether we survive as a republic or not. Everything else is writing on the midterms, ultimately deciding 2028, right? As is right now, and it could change. It could change. Don't know yet. I need some heavy duty convincing. We may lose the House, which would suck, because then we have a divided House. Hopefully, the powers that be can get their shit together. And I know what everybody's thinking. I know what everybody's banking on right now. Yeah, AG Pam Bondi, right? I don't know how many freaking days since she's been in. We have seen zero handcuffs, zero arrest, zero nooses, zero one-way flights to Gitmo, all that stuff. We get that. We see it every day, especially on X, the cesspool of the internet lately, in my opinion. But anyway, you do find some good information out there. Be patient is all I can tell you. The timing has to be right. And I believe that Donald Trump knows this. I strongly believe that his very close, legitimate, good people in his inner circle know this as well. Okay. But the timing has to be right. Remember, the art of the deal. Okay. We will see it. We hope anyway. But right now, I don't get the warm and fuzzies from Bondi. I just don't. She's got history, which that's not the topic for tonight. All right. So we'll leave that for another broadcast.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Sneezed again.
Exactly. See, I hope it's not that bug. But anyway. All right. So,
no, it's hand sanitizer. I don't want the bug.
Yeah, no. Really. So we're basically going to touch on key countries in the Western Hemisphere, and we're going to go back and forth to react to those on why they're sitting in a really, really sweet spot right now, but they're doing nothing with what they got, right? So the principal geopolitical foes of the U.S. in the Western Hemisphere are as follows: Cuba, yay, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and firmly in the China and Russia camp. I need to add, and the North Korean camp, and the Islamic camp. We can't leave those out either, all right? Cannot leave those out. All right, so other countries can shift depending on the outcome of recent elections. Here's an overview of some of the most geopolitically important countries in the Western Hemisphere to help frame the broader picture for you, right? Let's start off with my favorite, Venezuela, okay? A military confrontation over Venezuela appears increasingly likely, okay? Increasingly likely. Now, since Hugo Chavez's rise to power in 1999, Caracas has aligned itself with Russia and China, and other countries. Cuba, like I said before, North Korea, the Islamic countries, the bad ones and all that shit. All right. They always pick on these two. Don't know why, but whatever. So Venezuela's vast oil and gold reserves make it a geopolitical prize. The country holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, over 303 billion barrels, around 17% of the global total, concentrated in the Orinoco Belt. That's more oil than Saudi Arabia's reported reserves. And I believe it. Why? I remember there was a time uh, when the money in Venezuela started shifting. Okay, it started changing, right? The average Venezuelan was paying anywhere between 23 to 24 cents US. That's 23 to 24 cents US for diesel. Diesel, right? Because they use a lot of diesel engines down in Venezuela and South America as a whole, for that matter, right? Gasoline, 12 to 13 cents a gallon. Imagine the power of that. Now, will we ever see that here in America? I doubt it. But it sure would be nice as hell to see, like sub $1 or $1.25 prices again. I think that would
99 cents a gallon. They still make money.
they'd
Those
still make
cheeky
money.
bastards.
Yeah.
They're just a bunch of wankers and wonks. They know exactly what they're doing, going and coming with oil. That one series with Billy Bob Thornton, I think, really hits that business on the head in many ways, how it still operates. But even that has to change its ways eventually. So,
Especially
but
if you
anyway,
strip
it's
the tax,
still a strategic
if you strip the taxes out of
material.
it, oh yeah, it's a plus. They still make money. Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, they still make money.
Yeah. So for China and Russia, Venezuela represents a geopolitical foothold in America's backyard, much like how the US uses Taiwan and Ukraine to do the same to Beijing and Moscow, right? So Trump's renewed war on drugs is a thinly veiled pretext for the US to advance its geopolitical interest in the Americas. Why is that? Okay.
A few of them
You
need straightening out.
right. And
We'll get
like,
on to Nicaragua later, for example.
oh, it's coming. It's coming. And like Go said earlier, the reason for that on what I just mentioned right now is simply to do what? It's to get these foreign adversaries out of the Western Hemisphere. China, Russia, North Korea, the Islamics, whatever. Okay, the cartels in Mexico, which we're going to touch on them too. All right.
We'll come up with a new name for them, like the Slamis or something. I don't know. I'm thinking.
Yeah, get the
Yeah.
burrito benders out of here. All that shit. Just clean up the hemisphere.
Yeah,
Okay.
you want to play in this, you want to play in the game, you want to get elected to office, like over 12% of Congress, House and Senate are.
Yep.
And that's not 12. We don't have 36 million Islam in the country. So again, look at the balance and you'll see what's trying to infiltrate and how. And for now, everything's rosy. They're not really causing much trouble except for the dipshits in that little group. The short bus group is what I call them. AOC and what's that other one? The Somalian girl and a few others. And
Ilhan Omar.
yeah, and that brilliant genius crock of shit. What's her first name? I just call her crock of shit. Crockett is her last name, I believe. Out of
Oh,
Houston area.
Crockett of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, crock of shit. And you know, let him have a little heyday because it's not going to last. Because if you're Islamic and you're on board with being an American and embracing what Americans hold dear and what the Constitution means, fine. Fine. I mean, by far, not by far, not all who follow Islam are terrorists, but 99%, 95% of who are terrorists are Islamic. Police your house.
Yep. There you
Don't
go.
point your fingers at us. Don't point your fingers at our society when you can't police your own. And I'm talking to the good ones, the good people out there of that faith. Police your own. We sure as hell do.
Yep. All right.
As best we can.
Well, Yeah, that is true. All right, so let's continue here, right? So earlier this year, Washington labeled Venezuela's Tren de Aragua and the Cartel de los Soles as foreign terrorist organizations. Yay. A dramatic escalation without precedent. All right. So the designations paved the way for military and covert actions under counterterrorism authorities. Right. The U.S. has amassed an impressive naval force off Venezuela's coast in what Trump described as a campaign against narco terrorism. In reality, this looks more like classic gunboat diplomacy. The drugs and the terrorism narrative is merely a thin patina of propaganda used to justify policy. Venezuela is not a major cocaine producer, nor does it play any significant role in fentanyl trafficking. Okay? Venezuela now stands at the crossroads of a changing world order. It's difficult to imagine the U.S. securing its sphere of influence in the Western Hemisphere while Venezuela remains in its current geopolitical orientation, promoting an ideology that Latin America should be independent of the U.S. All right? Now, going back to Venezuela, this is a country that not only is very rich in oil, okay? Everybody knows that. They have a history of that, okay? They could basically be the pinnacle of South America and beyond as far as oil, clean oil, and production and exportation is concerned, right? Without the socialistic system. But be that as it may, it happened, and there you go. All right. They are also very rich.
Armando, what
Go ahead,
do
Chris.
they have a lot of light, sweet crude coming out of? Is that what comes out of Venezuela? It's been so long.
Well, yes, their crude oil is not very clean. Matter of
It's
fact,
not clean, so it's heavy crude.
it's very heavy crude. Yes. And there is
Okay.
only here in the US, there is only one refinery that can process and handle Venezuela's crude. Only one. Okay. And that one was threatened by the previous administration to get it shut down. Believe it or not, that did happen. Right. All right. So,
Insanity.
yeah, it's total insanity. Why? Well, no crude oil, to America. We can send it everywhere else and let the refineries handle it, but not here. Right? So that's one key point. There's also another country that is a player now in the Western Hemisphere, okay? And that is Guyana, which is very close to Venezuela, and they don't like each other very much. They don't, because they see it as the competition, okay? They see it as the competition. So Guyana has quietly become one of the most geopolitically significant states in the Western Hemisphere. Its oil boom, its vulnerability to a long-running territorial dispute with Venezuela, and its growing alignment with the U.S., okay, situated at the forefront of the conflict over control in the Western Hemisphere. Let that sink in, okay? Washington's recent deepening of economic and security ties signal recognition of that shift. Meanwhile, Caracas' legislative and military moves to assert control over Guyana's Essequibo region reflect a bold challenge, not just to Guyana, but to the U.S.'s hemispheric influence. Understand that, okay? So you have that going on also as well. That is another country that is sitting on a tremendous amount of not just oil, but also rare earth minerals, as is also Venezuela. Okay, you guys need to understand and comprehend what is at play here and why this is so important going into 2026. Okay, I'm telling you, things are going to change, right? So then we take a look at Cuba, all right, the shithole of the Americas, if you will. I can say that because I was born there.
It should be a jewel of the islands, but unfortunately, again, leadership does mean something sometimes.
It does. It does, without a doubt. All right. So Cuba may look small on a map, but its position, just 90 miles from Florida, makes it one of the most strategically important pieces on the hemispheric chessboard. Hence the reason why they're still there. Okay. Being abused by the foreign adversaries that the Trump administration is trying to clean up. Understand this also as well, right? So, in a world where geography still defines power, Cuba's proximity to the US and its historic defiance of Washington give it an outsized geopolitical weight. Okay. You guys remember JFK, Bay of Pigs invasion, Russia with the nukes and all that stuff, back in the 60s. Yeah. Okay. You get the importance. It's 90 miles away from Key West. I remember as a kid, my dad used to tell me that, well, my dad told me, I never saw it because, whatever. He told me they used to have ferry boat services that would leave Key West and go to Havana. I think it was like a 2.5 hour trip, if I'm not mistaken, right? On a daily basis, ferry boats. Imagine that, right? That's how close they are. Okay.
And
Now,
with today's weapon systems, that means nothing. That's what's
that's nothing.
scary.
A Tomahawk can take care of business without an issue.
Shot out
Providing,
of Georgia.
yeah, shout out of Georgia, if you will. Now imagine if you've got, a destroyer sitting somewhere,
It's a
somewhere
very short ride.
in international waters. It's like by the time you hit the button, it's already landed. But
Yeah, and if you don't want to be humanitarian about it, by the time you got to the radio, it's already done its job to warn them, hey, you got incoming. Bang. Oh, there it is. Told you.
yeah. So as the U.S. refocuses on, consolidating,
Military humor. It's dark.
yeah, you guys will get that, hopefully, anyway. So as the U.S. refocuses on consolidating influence in the Western Hemisphere, Cuba is a challenge. For Washington, the island's alignment with China and Russia complicates efforts to assert control over the region. And they left out a key component here, and the Vatican also as well. Now you may ask, Armando, what does the Vatican have to
Ding,
do?
ding, 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 ding. It's got to do with everything.
It's got to do with everything because that's who owns that island. Okay. Story for
When
another.
people, yeah, when people wise up to, oh yeah, man, that is a story for another. We don't want to piss off the Jesuits. They will come and slit your throat at night. Okay, I'm not in that game.
They can
But
try.
they do. The Jesuits do suck. But
I'm having
and
to.
that's your military arm of the Vatican. The Vatican is a sovereign territory. It has its own bank. It does not have to tell you, like BIS, does
Yep.
not have to tell you anything about what it does, how it does it, or why. It only answers to who owns it. Yes, there are owners above even that. So, that's a whole series of other shows. That we started that way back, and we got to bring. Gordo is doing good, by the way. Lord
Yay.
G.
Yay for
He's
Gordo.
doing very well, and he's healing well. As a matter of fact, I'll probably talk to him when we get off tonight, and yeah, he's healing up really well. And yeah, he's the toughest son of a bitch I ever saw. 3 times he's gone down. 3 times me and a friend or me by myself had to find him all from here, there by telephone. And it wasn't fun. And each time he was face planted on his kitchen floor, and this time on the deck of his boat. And he was there for several days. So he has pressure sores that even have to have plastic surgery. But I'm not going to go into any more of his illnesses. That's not polite.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they were going to do a penile reduction, from what I understand, but he said, "No, you don't touch that." And he said, "Don't touch my wanker, you wanker."
Wanker.
And, but he's doing good. I lighten things up a little bit, and I know, yeah, it's lowbrow humor, but I like that. But he's doing good. I don't know how I got off on that, but I had to tell you that.
Yeah. Sam
But
Spencer over on YouTube in the stream, he says the sad thing is I think we could free Cuba in about a month if we wanted to. The problem is businesses would want to make money off of it. Well, of course, there's always got to be a little, greasing of the palm there, if you will, Sam. But here's what I was going to mention. Glad you brought that up. Why is Venezuela still key? And I keep preaching on that because it is key. All right. Cuba depends on Venezuela for a lot. Okay. Oil, other resources, support, especially support, the political chess game. And what does Cuba give Venezuela in return? Special forces, military might, and that kind of stuff. Okay, that's just the way it is, plain and simple. All right. When Venezuela falls, and I believe it will fall soon, okay, it'll be a matter of, well, like what Sam said here. I don't even give it a month. I give it a couple of weeks. Cuba will topple like a freaking domino because it's game over. Then let's see who is going to rise to the top as far as, oh, hey, who are we going to be putting here to run the country? Obviously, America is going to shake its mighty muscle, okay, and do another nation rebuilding there and put a key person in check. Why? Again, 90 miles off the US coast. So don't think for a moment that you're going to get one of these yahoos that came over here across Mexico or floated over on a freaking raft and, and say, I want to be presidente of Cuba. Sorry, not happening. Not going to happen. And a lot of the old establishment living currently in South Florida, they're so damn old, they wouldn't even make it. Most of them have already died. So you're going to have to bring a new, fresh generational blood to go down there and set up shop, unless one of the agencies does that or the Vatican does that. Who the hell knows? I don't know. Okay.
Well, we got to beat them to it
You
unless
got
they
to
want to
beat
work a deal.
exactly. You got to beat them to it. All right. So let's continue here. So for Beijing and Moscow, Cuba offers a rare foothold in America's own backyard, a place to project soft power. Understand that soft power, intelligence, and potentially even military influence without crossing direct red lines. There you go, spelled out perfectly. Economically, Cuba's partners with China and Russia and other nations, okay, help it survive under U.S. sanctions. All right. And I'll tell you something else. The embargo, it's bullshit. Never existed. There never was a fucking embargo. Okay. At all. All right. It was all bullshit. All right. Currently, right now, there probably is one because they're patrolling the waters looking for unsanctioned oil tankers. So that, yeah. But economically, no, never has been. Okay. And we saw that under Obama's presidency, where he visited there multiple times when he lifted the supposed sanctions on travel. Okay. And let me tell you, these young yahoos, these socialists that came over here to America, they were importing and exporting goods from America down over to Havana like nobody's business. It was open trade. It was open season on making money. And they did. They made a lot of it. Obama actually attended a ball game. Okay. That was seen all over the world. Okay. And here in America on camera. Okay. So
yeah, he likes balls.
The thing. That's bullshit. All right. Now,
I said Obama went to the ball game. He likes balls.
Yeah, he loves balls, right? Big Mike's got some big coconuts too, from what I hear anyway. So Beijing has become Cuba's largest trading partner and a major investor in telecommunications. That is true. I know that for fact. Ports, that is also true. And infrastructure, but infrastructure not for the civilian populace. That's bullshit. Okay, in the hotel aspect of it, yes, because there's money to be made there from Europeans and other tourists from all over the globe, except here, right? Unless you got press credentials. So there's where their infrastructure is going into, and of course, military and all that bullshit, right? So now, Moscow, meanwhile, has pledged more than $1 billion in economic cooperation and continues to strengthen energy and defense ties. All right, again, it's all strategic. Okay, it's a skipping point from one place to another. That's their interest there. These relationships allow Havana to maintain political autonomy and serve as a symbolic anchor for anti-U.S. sentiment across Latin America. Right? In short, Cuba is more than a relic of the Cold War geopolitics. It's a live variable in today's multipolar order. Cuba is also a stark reminder of the limits of the U.S. government's power. Since 1959, Washington has unleashed covert operations, economic embargoes, and numerous attempts to topple the Cuban regime, and yet it remains. We know that to be true. So what new move could the U.S. now deploy that it hasn't already tried? Right? Short of a full-scale military invasion, which would itself offer no guarantee of success, I don't see any viable alternative. That means the Cuban government is likely to remain its current geopolitical orientation, and continue serving as a thorn in the side of the U.S. ambitions in the Western Hemisphere? Ghost?
Probably for the foreseeable future. It depends. Look, I think eyes are always on Cuba, but I think operations were lacking, in my humble opinion. Because if you really wanted to change that island, it could have been more aggressive decades ago. There had to be some there had to be some force or some player, and I mean above nation state level players that wanted Cuba to remain communist and bedraggled and still using cars that look beautiful that were made 50, 60 years ago, for example. And I think that's changing a little. You correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've seen, that's changing a little bit. But unfortunately, it's when you have an island state, as small as that is, it's not small compared to the rest of the islands in the Caribbean or generally islands, with the exception of Australia. Globally, it's a good sized island, but it's small enough that you can, if you're a tyrannical son of a bitch like the Castros were and whoever's running it now, I'm not really up on it. I really should pony up on Cuba a little better, and I can do that with this man right here and a little bit of reading material, but and a few phone calls. But it's like we really should have taken that a long time ago more seriously, and really, but at the same time, you have a heavy Russian and now Chinese presence there, and just makes it all the more difficult. But it's not out of the reach. We just stepped away. I think for a period there, a few years back, we stepped away from human thinking. SIGINT and all of that, signals intelligence and all of that would, and metadata sifting would do. And it doesn't. Nothing will ever replace human intelligence, face to face. I'm here. You don't know who I am, but I'm part of your community. But I'm watching listening, and then I'm building a network or doing whatever I'm doing, whatever whatever the task is, whatever your objective is. And it's a dangerous place, Venezuela and Cuba. You and I both know someone, a very dear man, who suffered. They got found out and uh, had suffered for decades physically because of it. And it's a hey, we not only have a Yank, but we've got a Yank from Langley or wherever, and they're gonna have their way with you.
Yep.
And it's like that in most parts of the world, but it's pretty brutal down there. So it's a difficult nut to crack, but it's all nuts are crackable in the end. Every boot can sack a pair of nuts anytime if you really want it that bad. So I don't know what's going on there, other than you see things that you log as a data point, you track it, and you keep it in your memory banks or in your notebook or whatever. And I think there's going to be the chance to do that down there eventually. And it may become an easier thing should we have to smack Venezuela around a little bit. The people of Venezuela are good people, just like the people of Cuba are. They're not a bad people. We were down there back in the 90s, 80s, 90s, setting up rigs on that big lake. What's the name of that lake? Most lightning strikes of any one location in the world. But setting rigs up on that lake, drilling for oil offshore and inland, and then things started to go the other way. I think there was an effort to try to bring them back, but it didn't work. One thing one thing that has to, in my opinion, has to change with geopolitical dealings and intelligence and business. Don't try to rape a population. Please don't do that. If you don't make something of benefit to them for their own resources under their own feet, you're going to breed resentment and you're going to breed internal fiefdoms of their own people, holding
Lake
down their own people.
Lake Maracaibo.
That's right. I always call it Maracaibo, but Maracaibo, that's probably how to pronounce it. You're the Hispanic, not me. I'm not the Cuban. Here you are.
See,
And um, I think we should have held. I think we should have held on to it, but there were other pressing things. You had other set the helm back in the aught of this century years. Um, your your war hawks, your your
Lindsey Graham.
neocons. Yeah, well, Lindsey Graham's a pussy compared to these other guys.
Yeah, I know.
Wolfowitz, Crystal, those guys. I mean, they drafted that New American Century document. I can't remember the name right now. It's been so long. But it called for, like in the Middle East, for example, 7 countries in 5 years. Boy, that's a tall order. Even General Clark spoke about walking by a desk and seeing that memo, as he put it. He probably read the whole friggin' dossier, and I don't want anything to do with this. Don't connect this with me. He probably ran out. But
I will tell you this.
we weren't minding the store in our own backyard, and we should have been.
Yeah.
Because even Canada slipped a few notches toward a certain island country in Europe. Not every country in that island, mind you, but one in particular that makes its living off of financing, empire building. And I think the empire of the future has a different face to it. And if you ignore the population, it's the case can be easily made to your own peril or your own loss. And if you don't care about that loss and the resources and the foothold it offers you, then you pay the price later. And I just don't want to see this get another. We don't need another. We just came through 20 years of horse shit in the Middle East. And then one of the biggest crimes of this century, leaving all that equipment behind. It's not something to be proud of, the way those jackasses, and there's your globalist hand doing that. President Trump would have never handled it that way. I won't speak for any president before that because they were all just two sides of the same coin. What people need to understand is Trump is not that same, he's a separate coin. And that's where you get the separate game and
Yep.
the basis for it. And the support for him, even if it's just personality support. If you're of the cult of personality, even though you don't know someone, oh, you hate them. I find that an amazing mindset to be in Trump derangement syndrome. How can you possibly hate someone that you've never met so viciously? You're going to say on his policies? Well, you're going to have to explain that one, because if you haven't noticed, he's the only president we've had probably in my lifetime that says what he means and means what he says and does what he says he's going to do. If it doesn't happen, you can bet he's being cock blocked by the globalist lackey bureaucrats and their compromised servants at all levels in government.
For sure.
And until we get rid of them, And I think that's what part of the first year was. You had to have a litmus test on some, it wasn't about top people. It was about things like what Patel is dealing with the FBI. There's very few people he can even trust in that organization.
Mm-hmm.
And
What is it? 5%? It's about it.
so about it. It's about it.
Yeah.
And I feel for him and what he must be going through internally to deal with all of this. That's a strong man. You got to hand it to him. I don't know what the deal is with Bongino. I'm sorry to see him go, and he'll be gone, I think, the second week in January, from what I've read.
I think that Bongino saw through the fucking smoke and the mirrors, and he understood what he was fucking up against, and he said, "Fuck this! I can't handle this shit," because he wants to talk. Remember, he was an air personality, right? And he wanted
Yeah.
to voice what he really knew, but you could look at the guy's face and just tell, right?
Oh, you can tell.
He couldn't say it, and he wanted to so bad, but he couldn't do it, right? For his safety, his family's safety. You know, Rubio the same way. I heard it just today. Rubio came out and had a quote of what Rubio's actually doing. Like him or not, doesn't matter. Okay.
I like it.
The time away from his family, especially his kids, okay, the traveling, okay, and those things, I'm sorry. If for those of you that have served active duty in the military with family, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. When you
It
deploy
sucks.
6 to 8 months, I mean, the pressure that's put on the family back home is insane. Now, why do you think the
It's,
divorce rate is so high in the military? Well, the same shit
yeah.
happens in the government. It's no different, especially at
You
that
get
level.
it. You get a remote tour to Korea or somewhere,
Yeah.
in the Aleutians, or there's 500 places at least around the planet. You do a remote tour, at least probably around 700, and you're gone for 6 months or a year, and your computer and your off time is the only time you have to look at them on a screen, and a screen does not replace real life. Just
Mhm.
doesn't.
Bingo.
Neither does a telephone. You know, uh, it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to deal with, and it's not good on the family, and especially young people who
Yeah.
don't have relationship skills and finely honed. I think a lot more. In some ways, attention should be paid to that. Tell them the realities of it. Tell them, yes, you can have older people who've been there and done that. Tell them, yes, you can get past that, and just know that it will end. That remote tour will come to an end. That sea duty will end in 6 months or whenever. Um, that's the nature of the beast,
Yep. I
and
wanted,
that doesn't make for a divorce just because it's just as hard on the man or woman who's away and in some godforsaken place for a year. It's not easy on them either. They
no.
better hold themselves together, and you get lonely, you stay in your barracks or your lodging. Don't go making trouble that you don't ever have to answer for. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I did that. No, you don't want to be that guy or that woman. And the same thing with the wives or husbands at home. Stick it out.
Yep.
So, and life is not all about us. It's if we have wife, children, it's about everybody. And it just puts a strain on that very thing that is not normal in civilian life. For some jobs it is, but not for the majority. No.
And
But
the
anyway,
same goes for the agency folks too, no matter which one it is.
exactly.
Same
Oh
thing.
yeah.
Same thing applies. One
That
thing I
might not be a
want
year. It might be years.
years. Yes, exactly. That's just it. And that's a hard call. I mean, And today we've got, you've got FaceTime that you can use. You've got all that stuff, all that modern technology for communications. Now imagine, especially when I was in uniform, the only form of communication we had that you had to go through a lot of clearances and checks to communicate with somebody at home. Okay, were two ways. You either had to have uh, you know, a pillow sack, full of quarters, so you use a public phone on the pier, or you had to go Western Union and send a telegram. That was it. I mean, there was more, but for the enlisted rank and file, that was your means. But anyway, I wanted to put in a point here, Ghost, also on this, talking about Cuba real quick before we move on to Colombia, right? Donald Trump is a businessman. Everybody knows this, right? He has a legacy on making money. Okay, he's good at it. He's a builder also as well. Let me just put this out there so you guys can grasp on how cleaning up the Western Hemisphere is so critical to America, right? Imagine the business boom the cruise ship industry would have if Cuba would be a free port as far as tourism is concerned. They would be raking in money like nobody's business because everybody wants to go there. Everybody wants a good cigar. They want to have good rum. They want to have good food, right? They want to see the classic cars from yesteryear. They got one of the most beautiful beaches in the hemisphere ever. Okay. I'm telling you, the cruise ship industry would make a killing if that were to come to fruition. And I guarantee you, President Trump has that in the back of his back burner. Okay. Back here, thinking about that, how much money America can make just off the tourism industry as far as the cruise ships are concerned, not counting the flights, cruising, just cruise ship, right?
And
Imagine that.
tourism breaks down so many barriers too.
Yeah. And,
You can
and it
either
goes
be
both
this,
ways. It goes both
yeah,
ways.
exactly.
It goes both ways, right? Cuba would be getting in, a huge injection of American dollars or whatever the currency will be at the time. Who knows? But it will go back and forth. I just wanted to get that point out there. Okay. All right. Looking over to the chat here real quick. All right. You guys are hanging in there tough, man. I love it. YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. We're getting some folks over there right now. Like, share, subscribe, folks. Subscribe, please. Need the numbers to go up over there on YouTube. Would really appreciate that. All right. Let's move on over to Colombia. Colombia is another strategically important country. Why? Colombia has long been one of Washington's most reliable allies in Latin America. Hugo Chavez famously and diversely, referred to it as the Israel of South America. That pattern has shifted under the country's current left-wing president, Gustavo Petro. Earlier this year, he traveled to China and signed a cooperation plan making Colombia's formal accession to the Belt and Road Initiative, a move that rattled Washington. In response, Trump announced the suspension of U.S. aid and threatened tariffs against Colombia, accusing Petro's government of failing to curb narcotics. Again, narcotics. The key question now is whether Colombia's pivot toward Beijing marks a lasting strategic realignment or simply a temporary detour under Petro's leadership. The direction Colombia ultimately takes will carry major geopolitical implications for the Americas, especially given its position bordering both Venezuela and Panama. Think about this, Venezuela and Panama. Okay. Ghost, you want to opine on that?
I think it is important to try to, because I can tell you this, probably the vast amount of Colombian populace doesn't like what's going on there.
No, he's a communist.
He's a communist and it's a narco state. Bad combination. Years ago they used to redirect drug trafficking. It was like, okay, we're going to redirect it because you're not going to send as much here. And it was under threat. But it was, and then shady things were done, such as helping them open other markets, other places, which is difficult because a lot of countries are very harsh on drugs. Go to Singapore and try to do that. See what happens to you. Go to China, try to do that. See what happens to you. You know, here we're just not tough enough on it because too much fucking money has been at the root of it all. Injections into the banking system. They damn well know where it was coming from, and now it's in the trillions.
Or Indonesia for that matter.
Oh, Indonesia, sure, yeah. Chop, chop, and the final chop your head.
Yep.
And it and
Uh,
not only do you have Colombia, but you also have that little pain in the ass Ortega in Nicaragua.
oh,
Oh, free elections, free elections. And what does he do? Cancels free elections.
that's
Back in
coming.
18, in May and April and May, first there was student demonstrations for free elections. They spent all day having their secret police. They don't have a military to speak of. They've spent all days photographing every demonstrator they could and every leader, and then going town to town, block to block, eventually door to door. Tens of thousands were arrested, tortured, murdered, raped, all of it. Nobody, the Cabal Times, New York Times, otherwise known as, um, printed a few articles on it, but they weren't telling you the whole truth. You had then the people. I mean, how did they disperse that first crowd when they were done photographing and their secret police had worked 3 days in a row and were tired? They fired shots into the crowd, random with snipers.
Mm-hmm.
About 6, 8 weeks later, you have the people and the students demonstrating, just walking peacefully. Photograph, 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 photograph. And how did they disperse that crowd? You never saw this splattered all over the news on the world, did you? The snipers were told to focus on the children of the parents. Shoot
Mm-hmm.
one of the kids, and they'll scatter. And they did. And then they went town to town, block to block, house to house, destroying families. All because Ortega, who was the wonderful freedom fighter and the whole Iran Contra thing, was all up in that. If you guys remember that, and the unindicted co-conspirator Stefan Alper. Hey, Stefan, they still protecting you over there in ain't jolly old England?
Yeah.
Well, you fat bastard. I'm sure your days are numbered if certain things go the way they should in this world, but that remains to be seen. But and that's not a threat. I'm just saying my opinion. But he was so afraid. Right now he's the typical Hitler tyrant. He's so afraid. Back in 18, he was so afraid of being one-upped or having someone else come along who could speak rationally and calmly to the population. Well, his wife is a practicing black witch, and if you remember, the New York Fed froze a shit ton of money. It was to the tune of, I think, almost $600 million. That was in the name of Ortega's son. Now, the reason why they froze that money was taken from one man. They referred to him as the Trump of Nicaragua. He had no political ambitions, and that's a fact. Oh, I know him, knew him. He's still around, and he's a good man. But he was building a resort on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua, and he provided 2 villages that would be the primary source of his labor for these resorts that would attract people from all over the world to go there. He provided water, sewage, and electricity for them. They never had that before in these villages. And he had done so much for them in preparation for opening this series of resorts along this land that he wanted to develop, and this was all he wanted to do. But Ortega's wife, being a practicing witch of black magic, she convinced her stupid ass husband that he was a threat to her. So he had a birthday. Two villages got together and 5,000 people showed up. And he, provided plenty of food, uh, something they weren't used to, a good time for all. So she goes into one of the neighboring villages and offers one chicken and two pieces of corrugated tin if you come listen to her speak. 56 people showed up compared to what they estimated was 6,000 that showed up for his birthday celebration as a thank you for what you're doing for their villages. See what I mean by development and including the population and things?
Yeah.
They saw him as a political threat. He had to flee the country. Well, he said, well, if I'm going to have to flee the country, then I'm going to set up refugee camps because you've got all these other young students and other people that you've targeted because of their demonstrations or their roles in these demonstrations, which were legitimate because he was holding back on everything he said he would do. Free elections, always. And fair elections. No, he didn't hold to that. He's your typical little shitbag communist, little tyrant. So this man crosses the border into Costa Rica and he calls in help from the Cubans, 5,000 Cubans to patrol the border. And along with them came some Russians, of course. And still people were making it through. And he would provide them with food, medical, limited food, medical care and clothing. And then to the right agencies in Costa Rica, which is a very good ally of ours, assimilating them into society to work or to continue school, whatever they could do to help these people. You can't give away the store, but you can help them. And they did. And things have not gotten much better down there from what I understand.
No.
So, and all it takes is the removal of that man because we already knew. Now it's going on 8 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. 8 years already.
I spent
And
time
he's still there.
Yeah, I spent time in uniform when that whole Ortega Chamorro deal was going away. The lady, the opposition, when all that shit was going on, I spent almost 120 days there, and it was tense every single day because shit was happening. You had agency everywhere, everywhere. I mean, everywhere. I know because a lot of them exfilled from the fucking boat I was
From the
on.
boat. Yep.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
And you have a lot of agencies, you have a lot of Mossad, you have a lot, and that's where Mossad is a great ally and a magnificent intelligence service.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of good people in South America.
They also had, what was that? Unless they've changed
Central
their name,
America.
unless they've changed their name already, it was, what was it? Unit 8200 or something like that.
That operates out of Israel.
Yeah. A lot of those.
That's like a hacking unit.
Yeah.
But you have, let's just put it this way. There's a presence there, but these are really good. Ours and theirs and others are very good at what they do, and they're there, and that's no secret. And again, biding time, patience when the time is right, because there is a lot of bad shit brewing in that country. And
timing is it.
Yeah, and they assisted in the let's say the not Belt and Road, but the footpath, Chinese finance footpath, all along the way, hotels in all various countries owned by Chinese. For those who were making their way to the border in those previous 4 years. So you can thank those dickheads who were doing that and bringing them up to the border. And I can't blame these people. But in and amongst them will be sprinkled off of another boat. It might be a banana boat. It might be a oil boat. It could be anything, any kind of ship. They were coming from other countries, the Middle East, and they were blending in with them and also crossing the border.
Yeah.
Except these were bad boys and girls, but mostly bad boys.
And the Chinese
And
were famous for setting up Chinese hotels only
the
down
hotels, yeah.
there, and
Hmm.
also the happy ending establishments as well. You
And
know.
they were getting paid through NGOs, some of them based out of this country. That's a treasonous act in my book any day. But everything was watched.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this, and I know it's going to freak some people out, but Palantir, if used correctly and with oversight, is not necessarily a bad thing because you can map down to the individual if they have a telephone, even if they don't have it in their name and it's a burner. There's voice prints. Once you identify the voice print, well, there it is. And you don't have to wait for human beings to sift through flagged items. You can have AI sift through the most as it learns what its task is. Say that trail, for example, it can follow those voice prints and what they're saying, who they're communicating with, and the networks they're attached to. And a lot of them do feed through Africa into where we were doing strikes.
Hmm.
So the strikes serve many purposes. Disrupt a flow of money from Iran coming from China, possibly, probably. Well, yeah, let's just say so. And coming from other areas that it's funneled through, Muslim Brotherhood, etc., trying to always stir up that shit. And I'm sorry, but the Africans don't want it and they don't deserve it. It's time for that continent also to be looked into more so. There's a lot of great footing going on down there now, and you know, I swear the best doctors I ever had, the most compassionate, the most knowledgeable, the most communicative have been Nigerian doctors or Ugandan or from any number of other countries down there that because they know. I had one look at me and he looked at this condition of my spine and he said, "You've been through a lot of suffering, my friend." And he said, "I know, I should know from where I come from." Because we got into, I was curious and I always love to talk to people from other countries and continents and especially Africa. That was a very important one. And um, it was a wonderful thing. Thank you. I was just delivered a chocolate shake by my
Oh,
daughter.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I might have gained a couple pounds, but I'm not a fat guy, as you know.
Yeah, I know.
Um, but I think I put on about 5, but
Continue,
probably
Ghost.
needed. But anyway, I'm saying all this to say that we have all these trouble spots that appear to be trouble spots that if we give it the proper time and attention, and unfortunately there will be some kinetic involvement. It's just an inevitability in certain situations. You have to deal with it, and but the payoff in the end is, let's say, um, the countries less cooperative in South America and Central America will be boxed in by other countries that want to be a part of something more positive, like Chile and uh, Argentina, Brazil. We cannot forget about Brazil, a huge
Yep.
country,
We're going to touch
uh,
on them in
huge
Argentina.
resources. Okay, yeah, go on with that. Let me
Uh,
shut my pie
no, no.
hole and
Go ahead
drink
and
some shake.
no, no, you're good. Have some shake, folks. I'm going to turn my fan on. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back because I'm burning up in here. Hold on 1 second. Ghost, you can continue talking. I'll be right back. 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. I think he's going to puff on a cigar while he's taking a pee, to be honest with you, but that's just me. Um, doesn't take 2 minutes to turn on a fan. But I don't know what to do when I'm given the mic without somebody else on the show. And I'm not looking at I don't have a thing in front of me where I usually look at the chat. So it's a little song I've been writing.
Sure.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go there. Okay, you're back. Thank God.
Solo mio. All right. So speaking of Nicaragua, let's go ahead and jump into that one. So Nicaragua has firmly aligned itself with China and Russia and other countries. God, I hate when they do that. Here we go. You ready? Positioning the Ortega government as one of Washington's most outspoken adversaries in the Western Hemisphere. Economically, Nicaragua has embraced China as a partner in infrastructure and investment, offering Beijing a strategic toehold in Central America. The Ortega administration has actively courted Chinese financing for energy, telecommunications, and port projects. Again, here's ports, very important.
Ports.
Understand this. Ports is key. All right.
Yes.
Moves that fit nearly into Beijing's broader Belt and Road ambitions. Relations with the U.S., by contrast, have deteriorated sharply amid sanctions, trade restrictions, and public criticism of Ortega. Okay, I think Ghost beautifully touched a lot of detail on Nicaragua. So remember, again, this is another country that has a vast.
Ortega is a murderous tyrant. And I
Yeah,
will say that out loud. He's a murderous piece of shit tyrant. You hear that, Ortega? Daniel? Huh? You hear that?
yeah.
That's right. He's coming for me. Say hello to my little friend.
And let me tell you,
Bitch.
that's another key
Him and
country.
his bitch wife. Excuse me. I'm not doing much for foreign relations, am I?
No,
Don't care.
we're not. We don't do PR. That's all there is to it. Nicaragua, again, vast resources that they're sitting on. Just talking from a cigar point of view, especially Padron. I mean, amazing. But anyway, that topic for another subject. And another huge, vast amount of resources that they're sitting on. So another key player in the Western Hemisphere. Now, let's go to a big one, Brazil. All right. So Brazil, Latin America's largest country by size and population, finds itself at a pivotal juncture in the hemisphere's evolving geopolitical map. Under former President Jair Bolsonaro, sorry, my Portuguese sucks, Brazil aligned.
Bolsonaro, that's how I know.
Yeah. Brazil aligned closely with the U.S., sharing trade policies and strategic cooperation. That posture shifted with the return of Luis da Silva, okay, who has pushed Brazil towards stronger ties with China, another communist, okay? Tensions with the U.S. erupted recently when Trump imposed a sweeping 50% tariff on Brazilian exports. And those do not include butt lifts, okay? Just want to put that out there. Now,
and they have to do this because the people of Brazil, they knew they were fucked with the same voting system.
completely.
That IBM virus that spread around the world that was once had a useful purpose until certain idiots and morons like Brennan and others before him turned it into something they could use here. It had its place, but it got out.
Orchestrated by Venezuela. Again, Venezuela is
Yeah,
key.
exactly. And Venezuela's key to that because the people remember the demonstrations. The people were like, no, fuck this. We didn't vote for this. And they knew they didn't vote for that. But you have a very strong, I probably know more about Brazil than any other country down there. You do have a very strong capitalist
mentality.
let's say mentality in the system of jurisprudence. Those who are at the top, they're very quiet, and I don't want to say too much. You have in the business community, Sao Paulo is an industrialized city. It's probably their economic engine as far as industry is concerned, and Rio more with the tourist. aspect, but also with leadership of the country.
They're,
And
they're also a
you
really big
had,
firearms exporter with the brand Taurus.
yeah. Hmm. And Brazil has all the potential in the world. And I think that's a country we should be helping, um, let's say from the shadows more
Hmm.
fervently, in my humble opinion. Because with if you lose Brazil to these sack of shit communists um, who will appeal, and there is a big disparity. That's the problem that Brazil that if the capitalists are serious there, and they are, we need to help them in a way that ends a huge economic disparity. There, it's kind of like you've either got it or you don't. There's no in between. What they were trying, what the banksters out of Europe and here were trying to do to this country, still are. Never forget that. Because first and foremost, we have our own internal battles to create, but I digress. Brazil, I think, we really need to, and I'm sure there's robust efforts in certain worlds down there for what I'm saying. Brazil needs to be, let's say, help through this voting cycle and
Yep.
get to the next, but get to the next the right way, because the people of Brazil damn well know what they want. And uh, unfortunately, you had things like, I remember about, I don't know, it was about 12, 13 years ago. Well, it's 26, let's consider it 26. So it's 13 years ago. Police helicopter was looking for someone, went over the wrong neighborhood, and everybody came out with their nines and shot it down. You have enough pistols pointing at you and rifles. One of them's a number of them are gonna hit you. And they actually took down the police helicopter.
Hmm.
So that kind of disparity has to be addressed. They had really magnificent infrastructure reaching out into the Amazon. I'm talking interstate type roads, which when you have an interstate, you generate populations going into those areas, whether it be mining, forestry, whether it be tech or whatever. People are going to move further into those difficult regions to reach. And um, even though they've been doing a lot of clear cutting of the rainforest, a lot of that has slowed down. The cattle industry has kind of reached its peak and stabilized. But we should let Europe and other countries let China buy their beef from there. We need to help our own cattle ranchers. Again, internal first. But we also have to be mindful especially of a country like Brazil. And we should be partnering in many ways once this gaggle of stupid ass commie tyrants are out. And believe me, internally, they're a determined people. And
It's
you
another
put,
populace down there that is sitting on another mountain of resources, and
yeah,
they are also
yeah,
mountains of resources, and they are also a behemoth in tourism. Again, think about that.
yeah.
Rio de Janeiro, a behemoth in tourism.
Copacabana, Ipanema, and Leblon make up that whole beachfront.
Yeah, exactly.
And friend of mine, her family owned, more than a friend, back in the day. Her family owned the top three build stories of three of those buildings. I can point them out to you if you ever send me a good picture of the beachfront. I can find one and say that one, but I don't want to do that publicly, of course. Good people, good family. Father was a Supreme Court justice, passed away years ago. And unfortunately, she at a far too young age passed away getting the jab, but lived here. And uh, I still think there's hell to pay with that. That's a whole other show of cursing and pissing and moaning. But I say that to say that they are a people of they have everything it takes to become a nation of resourcefulness and self-generation as far as everything they need and for export. And I think Brazil should be a key partner to us. And we've got to clean that mess up because that damned voting machine, the globalists, this is a globalist cock knocking game, is what they're doing, what they try to do with the voting machines. Why people like Tina Peters are rotting in jail when she should be free. She did this country a service that most people have yet to learn the totality of, for example. I know. I forwarded material about her years ago when it all happened and in the interim. And that is even happening in this country just shows you, it doesn't make me ashamed of this country, just makes me ashamed of how far certain states have gone. And Colorado, you got it coming. Okay, just as bad as California, in my humble opinion. But that's going to be handled in the right way. And but we've got to reverse certain trends, and I think Brazil of all countries could use the assistance and the preparation, well, let's say covertly for the time being, and then the next election cycle, major election cycle, overtly, and
Ghost,
because we're on our own on this, on a lot of things.
how you doing on time? Because we're a little bit behind the schedule we talked about. If you're good on time, I'll continue.
I'd say half hour.
All right. So
40 minutes maybe.
We need to press on then.
Yeah.
All right. So citing Brazil's prosecution of Bolsonaro and Washington called unfair trade practices. Okay. Brazil responded by filing a complaint to the World Trade Organization. There's a nice one for you, the WTO, invoking its new reciprocity law and hinting at retaliatory tariffs of its own. The result, a major rift with the U.S. and a clear signal that Brazil is recalibrating its strategic orientation. Now, Brazil's direction matters enormously, as Ghost so eloquently detailed out for you. A lasting U.S.-Brazil split could realign trade flows, shift regional power dynamics, and boost China's influence in Latin America. Conversely, if Brazil ultimately steers back toward Washington, it would reaffirm the U.S.'s dominant position in the hemisphere. Let's go ahead and tackle now Panama. Panama is another key player. Okay, not so much for bananas, okay, if you will, but more for the canal. Panama has emerged as a crucial flashpoint in the contest for influence across the Western Hemisphere. With the Panama Canal at the center of global trade and U.S. naval strategy, the Trump administration views any Chinese foothold near the waterways as intolerable. Earlier this year, Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited Panama and delivered a blunt message, quote, reduce Chinese influence around the canal or face consequences, end quote. Within days, Panama announced it would not renew its memorandum with China's Belt and Road Initiative, a move widely seen as a victory for U.S. pressure. The backdrop is unmistakable. Trump himself has publicly questioned the sovereignty of the canal, suggesting the U.S. might take it back, and they should. The strategic intent is clear. Panama must align with the United States rather than Beijing. The canal is too vital for Washington to treat as neutral.
We built it.
Yeah, exactly. Washington's recent hard line invokes echoes of 1989, when U.S. military forces invaded Panama to remove Manuel Noriega and install a friendly regime. Okay?
They just wanted to shut his mouth so he wouldn't rat out Daddy Bush. That's the only reason they went down there. What was that? Just Cause? Yeah. just because I want to is Bush's name.
Yeah.
I guess they got that from his response. Why are you doing that? Just cause? I
Yeah.
have to,
I remember that
Daddy
vividly
Bush.
when he smacked
Yeah.
the machete on the pulpit. I declare war on the United States of America. Next day, he had the Rangers and he had everybody up his ass.
Good luck with that shit, Manuel. And he wound up in a Florida prison.
See, anyway,
Sorry. When you remember all that stuff like it was yesterday,
I
you're
know.
young in uniform, you're going, oh, you dumbass.
All right, let's dive into Mexico. Okay, Sancho Land, Mexico. All right, this is one of those countries where I've known for a very, very, very long time. Mexico is one of these oddball countries. Okay, they sit probably, in my opinion, on the in all of the Western Hemisphere on the largest real estate of rare earth minerals, diamonds, uh, petrol, everything, natural gas, everything that you can think of under the sun. But what's the problem? They never, ever cultivated those resources for their profit gain, export, commerce, whatever. They just never did. They just sit on it. Okay. They just sat down next to their freaking donkey, pulled the sombrero over their eyes, and pulled out the bottle of Corvo and just started drinking from that. And he goes, fuck it. It's almost dinner time, my friend. You know what I mean? And the cartels run that. The government is corrupt. They train Chinese military people down there. It's a shithole, and it's sad. It really is, and it's not the fault of the Mexican people. They're good people. Know lots of them. Okay, but their country just went awry, and I'm telling you, they are sitting literally on the largest wealth deposit in this hemisphere, in my opinion. Right. So here we go.
It's
Mexico.
huge.
Yeah.
But in southern Mexico, the Chinese have had a hold there with the oil industry for a while. Pemex is their state-run oil
Yep.
consortium, and Pemex doesn't make a move without consulting these Chinese consulting firm down there in suits, but they're all former PLA members or MSS or both, and they have a huge tank farm down there of crude. It's a reserve here in this hemisphere for them that they own. It's moves like this that, um, yeah, we're in the Philippines. Yes, we're very close to Japan, and that will always be. I feel that's a relationship that has to be maintained correctly, the one with Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And South Korea. It's a
Yeah.
very firm alliance. And brings to mind the South Korean White Horse. I believe it's a division. They've never lost a battle, and they fought beside us in Vietnam. Most people don't know that. They're some ferocious fighters and brilliant, resourceful people. It's a very small area of that country, but you have Samsung, steel, and electronics. And as far as I'm concerned, the best televisions and phones out there are Samsung. I just want to de-Google the hell out of them, but that would make them even better. Samsung, you hear that?
Yeah.
And
And phones.
yeah, phones. That's what I meant. And the Korean people are every bit as industrious and brilliant at what they do, and measured and patient, like the Japanese. And the dichotomy of North Korea being right past that DMZ just blows my mind. There's the difference between socialism, communism, and capitalism. Cross that DMZ. It's heaven, then hell. And I mean that literally. The stories of North Korea, very familiar with South and North Korea situation, and the North Koreans, you'd have engineers and highly, highly trained people, PhDs, and real PhDs, not a lot of these pseudo-American PhDs these days, out picking rice because that's what's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But that's communism. And they build a sub, but they left the screen door open on it. I mean, they closed the screen door, but they didn't close the hatch. And it sunk. So I'm making a joke there. But very dangerous situation when you have Koreans have the most subs, I think, in their fleet in the world, North Korea. But they're diesel electric, most of them. And you have that little rocket man playing with his little nuclear bomb. Yeah, they didn't create them. It's too much of a orchestrated engineering and scientific effort for them to have done that. Obviously, that was passed to them. And even China considers them to be a pain in the ass, a boil on their northeastern border. But I think ultimately, when you hear of reunification talks, leave it to the Koreans to proctor that because they know each other. Families are broken up when that line was formed. That still to this day try to visit. Well, they do. They try it every once in a while and they shut it off. They try it again, they shut it off. Even built a ship for that reason that remained in port. Um, so, but everyone knows what North Korea is used as. Um, it's a dangerous little bitch over there, is what it is. But
Absolutely.
I'm just mentioning that to mention strategic alignments that need to be maintained and let's say even further developed in some cases. I'm glad that the Japanese have finally taken an offensive posture with their defense force. They referred to all their forces as defense forces. Well, they're finally taking a more offensive posture. Even I think they're moving into the nuclear fraternity, and they
Well,
should
they better.
because and they're developing a sixth generation fighter that I think certain U.S. concerns are working with them on. They're innovators and efficiency experts. They're like a country of corporations are all Elon Musk's into themselves. They're all efficient or efficiency oriented. And the important thing is, yes, if they're going to develop their own sixth generation fighter, it will probably be something that is impressive in the end. They don't have what we have, but it'll be impressive enough to keep the wolves at bay until the potential future alignment actually works out. And that's how you change the game. Imagine an economic alignment of the United States, state Canada included in that, um, Japan, Russia, China, and India.
Yeah, it's
That's
game
how
over.
you,
It's game over for the other guys.
for the banks, for the central banking system as it's
Exactly.
known,
It's
and
done.
it's game over. So a lot of the blustering and the back and forth is how the game is played money wise on many levels, and a lot of it is for our protection. You have, like in every country, you have, and particularly in China, MSS is going to always look at everything as a long term enemy when there are, in fact, um, let's say, concerns, powerful dynastic concerns that care about the future of their country and they know communism is not the way. And the people of that country, unfortunately, they're so locked down, it's not funny. But if you gave them the choice, you'd have not just one man standing in front of a tank in Tiananmen Square. I remember that vividly. You'd have 100 million.
Yeah.
When we need, if
All right.
things need to go in that direction, if one thing is more important than the other, then all this brinksmanship needs to slow down. And if we're going to lead the way economically when it comes to crypto, I think there's other alignments that need to be considered and very
Michelle,
carefully.
we'll soon see enough, right? Mexico,
Yeah.
you got to consider something else, right? Ford, Chevy, Toyota, all of these manufacturers are down there also as well, which is another key point. Because if you remember during Trump's first term, what was it? The UC, not the U.S. Mexico trade or whatever got rid of NAFTA or whatever Clinton put in. Uh, where did that go? You hear no more talk about that, right? So hopefully, who knows? We'll see. But anyway, Mexico sits
It's probably
squarely.
an ace in the hole in certain ways right now. I don't know.
No, no,
Like
no, for sure.
USMCA.
USMCA, that's what I was saying. Yeah. So let's look at it, right? So Mexico sits squarely at the heart of America's both geographically and economically as the US's largest trading partner. Mexico has deep economic, manufacturing, and logistical links with Washington, from cross-border supply chains to shared infrastructure. At the same time, Mexico engages with China economically. Chinese goods and investments are flowing into Mexico at a growing pace, sometimes causing friction with the U.S., which worries that Mexico could become a backdoor for Chinese influence or trade, already has. Mexico's leadership also shows signs of asserting greater independence, pursuing its own path on global diplomacy and trade policy rather than fully falling in line with Washington. Further, Mexico faces new pressure from Washington to treat its drug cartels as terrorist threats. The Trump administration has declared major Mexican criminal groups as foreign terrorist organizations and is laying plans for military operations inside Mexico's borders. For Mexico's leadership, this presents a serious challenge. Mexico firmly asserts that no foreign military operations may take place on its soil without authorization and sees unilateral U.S. actions as a breach of national sovereignty. Mexico could become a pivot point where U.S. geopolitical strategy collides with Latin American autonomy. Now let's look at El Salvador. This is an
Here's
interesting.
something real quick to think about. Once high grade chip production
Yes,
is
yes,
reasserted in the back in this country, I hate to tell Taiwan this, but the chip that will, the chip that I see, how I see it being played out is we give Mexico the what for, like wag the finger at them. And once this current dipshit is out of office, and tell them, no, you know what's best for North America. So you're going to do this. And when we do that, it'll be when we've secured high grade, high sophisticated chip manufacturing, because it's not in mainland China, it is in Taiwan. And when we secure that here, okay, you're going to back the fuck off and you're going to back the fuck out, China, of, of Mexico. And yeah, if you take Taiwan, too bad, so sad.
Yep, exactly.
That's what I see.
Let's get into El Salvador. So, El Salvador is an interesting example of geopolitical tug of war between China and the U.S. in Latin America. A defining moment came when Washington paid roughly $6 million to El Salvador to detain hundreds of deportees, mainly Venezuelans, in the country's maximum security prison. Shortly after, the U.S. hosted President Bukele's at the White House, praising his government's hardline approach to gangs, migration control, and internal security. At the same time, Bukele has deepened ties with China. Beijing has financed major Salvadorian infrastructure projects, including the new National Library, a modern stadium, and an expansive waterfront tourism corridor. Bullshit. It's another port. So far, Bukele has managed to balance relationships with both Washington and Beijing. Whether that balance can hold remains to be seen. But for now, El Salvador stands as one of the few countries effectively navigating both sides of the great power rivalry. Let's
I
go
think
into our.
there's more. I think there's more to it than that. I think they're
Oh,
more
yeah.
of a back channel.
Yeah, here's
Right?
the back
Just
channels.
my little opinion. I don't think they're so. I think whatever they do with China,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, is sanctioned or requested.
Yep.
That's my little humble opinion.
Just push them. That's it.
Hmm.
Let's jump into Argentina. This is another key one in my opinion. All right. So Argentina under Javier Milei, Argentina has become a key partner for the US in South America. That's why the US has made an unusually large and openly political bet on Argentina. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and President Trump previously announced a $20 billion currency swap that allows the US Treasury to buy Argentine pesos and deliver dollars to help stabilize Argentina's financial system. They also outlined plans to assemble another $20 billion from US banks and private funds, bringing total potential support to around $40 billion. Trump described the deal as an economic Monroe Doctrine, making clear that this is not simply an economic program, but a geopolitical play. He tied the continuation of U.S. support directly to President Javier Milei's political success. The U.S. interest in Argentina is not hard to understand. Argentina is the third largest economy in Latin America with a GDP of about $600 billion. It is a major exporter of agricultural products and holds some of the world's largest shale gas reserves. It also possesses huge lithium deposits. These resources are strategically valuable in a world where supply chain, food, energy, and critical minerals are becoming more important amid rising tensions with Russia and China. So what makes Argentina stand out is its political direction. While many large Latin American economies maintain closer ties to China or leaning toward the BRICS bloc, Argentina under Milei has taken the opposite path. Milei withdrew from BRICS expansion plan, canceled or froze Chinese infrastructure agreements, scaled back the use of China's currency swap lines, opened strategic Parana River region to U.S. military cooperation, and began signing new mineral agreements with U.S. partners. For Washington, reducing Chinese influence in Argentina and securing access to critical resources are major incentives behind the financial support. For Argentina, the U.S. swap line is meant to stabilize the peso and support Milei's market-friendly reforms. But the political conditionality creates risk. If reforms stall or if Milei loses legislative momentum, the U.S. may pull back, which could quickly destabilize the currency again. In the most recent national election, Milei's party made significant gains, winning roughly 41% of the vote and increasing its congressional representation enough to strengthen its ability to block opposition measures. Markets interpreted this as a sign that U.S. backing will continue for now and that reform efforts will remain in place. The bigger picture is that Washington is using financial leverage to support influence in strategically important resource-rich country. All right. So when geopolitics shifts, financial reality follows. The great power struggle unfolding across the Western Hemisphere isn't just regional contest, it's a sign of the deeper economic fractures now spreading throughout the global system. As the US, China, and Russia compete to influence in Latin America, the financial foundations that once underpinned American global dominance are weakening under the weight of inflation, debt, and an overstretched monetary order. Geopolitical realignment is accelerating a financial reckoning that will affect every saver and investor long before it reshapes national borders. Okay.
Interesting statement. Last statement. They
Mhm.
forgot one thing. They've got the largest influx of German genetics following World War II. Better Lord.
Yeah, correct. Very, very correct. You know, and if this keeps up, you're going to have to report to the Coca-Cola company.
Yes, you will.
Anyway,
Of course, Southern Hemisphere Coca-Cola Company.
yeah, absolutely. In bottles, not cans. It's better. Anyway. All right. So basically, what does this entail? In my opinion, all right, because that was the end of it. All right. So to help you guys understand this a little bit better, and then I'll pass it over to Ghost. Um, what is the goal here? The goal here that Trump is trying to reach ultimately, and I believe 2026 will play a pivotal role as we go into 2026. What's it really about? It's about trade, commerce, and peace to the Western Hemisphere. That's what this man wants. It's a win-win. It's a win-win for both sides. It's a win for America. It's a win for these countries that we just talked about. Because imagine this: no drugs, no trafficking of kids or adults or what have you. Okay, no more narco state, no more foreign adversary influence, which is key here. Get them all out. Because here's what I do know based on experience. When you have trade, when you have open commerce, okay, and it flows back and forth from America to them and from them to America, everybody's happy. Everybody has peace. Everybody's making money, and you have happiness. Once we secure, okay, the Western Hemisphere, as Trump is doing right now, that presents a huge problem for who? Europe. And I don't mean Europe as nations. I mean as, the banking system.
Not the people of Europe, not
No, not the people of Europe.
Europe in general, but the banking system, exactly, because there's two other countries that are important in this that were
And it will
Peru
also,
and Ecuador.
there you go. And
Ecuador has always been an ally.
it will also
And they're
pin the East.
got
It will also pin the East.
Mhm.
Okay. What I mean by pinning is, and Go said it in the beginning, imagine an alignment with India. Imagine an alignment with what's the other country you had mentioned over there?
Japan,
With Japan,
China,
China.
South Korea,
It will
Russia,
basically pin
and the
those
US.
folks, right, to stay in their own lane, right? To stay in their own lane. And it's like, oh, the Western Hemisphere? No, sorry, we can't fuck with them. You got to leave them alone. We just need to figure it out over here. And eventually that will trickle down for them, hopefully, to want to do fair trade, fair commerce, and instill peace in that region also as well. But I see that further down the road. That's just my analogy of it, my opinion. But right now, the main focus going into 2026, ladies and gentlemen, is the Western Hemisphere. It has to get cleaned up. However, we are going to run across stumbling blocks. Ghost will tell you there are going to be challenges ahead of us, stumbling blocks ahead of us. And right now, in my opinion, just my opinion, the midterms is the golden key to success. And I'm not feeling the warm and fuzzies right now about the House. I'm just not. Okay. They need to get their shit together and address the midterms, especially in the realm of voter fraud. They need to go to paper ballots. They need to get this shit in order. If not, while we weed out, the demons in the fucking government, okay, and get them cleaned up also as well.
And throughout the country.
Well, that too. Yeah, because why?
Yeah.
Once we segue to 2028 and the major elections come, if we don't have our I's dotted and our T's crossed and we lose it in 28, we're fucked. It's game over. Period. Ghost, what do you think?
It's like I said, coming in 26, 24 rather. Stop worrying about whether Trump's going to win or not. All you have to do is show up and vote.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you may think, well, I've learned enough that I don't care about that anymore. It's all a game. No, for the first time in a very long time, your vote will count again, like it did in 24. Did I ever waver for 2 years, 3 years prior to that, saying, no, he'll be back in?
Mm-mm.
Never did
Nope.
I ever waver from that stance. I kept it simple. I kept it straightforward. I said, no, he'll be back in. But you have to vote. You have to vote. Never mind the contract. Never mind all that stuff. That can be fixed later. If you don't vote now and take the necessary steps, look, your yard's a mess. The first thing you're going to clean to get something in there is your driveway. Clear the trees, sweep off all the debris so you can get equipment in to do the rest of your yard. This is what we're talking about. The road's being cleared. Your driveway's coming up. It's another election. We'll clear the driveway. That means show up, vote, overwhelm any leftover pockets of electronic resistance, shall we say, treasonous, worthy of a firing squad, electronic resistance, and otherwise. We're going in the right direction. Paper ballots, showing up, proving who you are. And a nice AI component and an oversight AI component, but really nice to it to say, hey, Mrs. Susie Johnson in this county voted not only in her county, but in 4 other counties. And yeah, caught that one. You see what I'm saying? I'm simplifying, grossly oversimplifying it. But all of it, this, I think we're at a pivotal point as far as voting, as far as the actual implementation of a shift. And then when I say a shift, a tectonic shift. And that will always be, the basis of that will always be how we engage in commerce and what we use to engage in that commerce. We will eventually be saying goodbye to the dollar bill. But what replaces it will be far more secure. You can't load it on pallets after being counted, wrap it in plastic, and ship it to another country. Can't do that with blockchain and proper oversight. Now I know, yes, I know all the negatives. I can imagine the negatives in 5 minutes that would make someone sick. But understand, we've overcome 1,000 times that negatives in the last decade almost. And 16 will be a decade when he came down that elevator, and 26 will be a decade from 16, rather. Then he came down that elevator and said, yeah, I'm going to do this. And fuck you if you don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's what I love about the man. You know, uh, he yes, there's certain games you've got to play. Like today, he was paraded out. Remember, I just caught it by accident because I accidentally hit something that popped up on my screen, and there he was with the dancing Zorba over there, but the dancing Zorba was here, and you could see by the body language. I would ask everyone watch that little 8 to 10 minute, wasn't the body language with that little tiny twerp who likes to dance in high heels and whatever the fuck he was wearing that looked like a cross between leather and latex. I don't know what the hell it was. Whether it was comedy or not, that's him. That's this man's level of proficiency. He's been a fucking sock puppet the whole time.
I don't
Except the right hand took the other hand out and put the right hand up his ass to make him jump. But I could see the little strings on his arm and his head, and he was just standing there smiling. And the
and
president was saying, "What are you?" Very low key.
I don't
Oh,
think
we're
he
gonna.
probably
Huh?
I don't think he powdered his nose before he left the limousine either.
No, he didn't. He didn't. And a little bitch. And he, but you could see, yes. And the president says what he has to say in these situations. Yes, the people of Ukraine have suffered, and they have, and because of him being a little sock puppet for the globalist bitches out there, and having to take an ass kicking from the Russians, because that's how real history will read. So Putin was a special military operation. If you know what's going on in this world, and especially with our country, you knew that that was a good thing. Well, my blood comes from that country. Shut up. That
Yeah.
means nothing. That's an emotional response. There were labs, there were money laundering, human trafficking, gold, guns, everything going through Ukraine like there was no tomorrow. And the proof was when a convoy of 5 trucks would take off at night, and every 3 kilometers there was a checkpoint. How does a whole tractor trailer load of what they needed at the front in Ukraine, bullets, beans, and small arms, never make it? And then
Uh
a few of the Humvees and Buffaloes wound up in Nigeria and other locations
huh. And
because they
Mexico.
were all, and he needed that for his troops and all these dipshits coming in and more junkies, some of them, but dipshits going, oh, I'm going to go fight in the Ukraine war and help them because it's a noble cause. No, it isn't. It's a stupid fucking thing to do, you idiot.
It's a suicide
And
mission.
it's a suicide mission. And if you don't bring your kit, you won't have the right kit, clothing, hot water preparation in the field, none of it. You weren't going to get it because they were either black marketing. The higher level officers are black marketing it on behalf of the criminals in the government and themselves. And they didn't care if you were dumb enough to come in from England or from wherever into Poland and then cross the border. They didn't care because you were just cannon fodder.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of maimed and dead because of that didn't have any business being there in the first place. But a lot of bad shit was cleaned up as a result of all this. And we're going to see the end of it because it's time to end it. Now it's time to end it because it serves no more purpose. It served its purpose.
All right. To the
And
moderator, Digi,
I'm done.
thank you so much
Do you
for
have any?
stopping.
Is there any questions or any?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Digi, thank you very much for popping in here. Yeah, we're going to go probably another 5 minutes. If we're still here, great. If not, thank you so much. I appreciate the help here today. So let's do a quick 3 to 4 minute Q&A for the table of truth here. So MP20 has one. I put one up on screen. Maybe Ghost, you can tap into this one. What did Trump mean when he said the 2024 election was the last time Christians would vote? I don't know that one.
I'm not familiar with that. The last time Christians would vote.
I don't know. I don't know what that
I'd
means.
like to see the source of that. That can be dropped in the chat. I'll
Yeah.
grab hold of it somehow. And I didn't hear anything to the effect of Christians would be voting. I heard that this would be the last good Christmas for maybe a while. And then again, economic transition could lead to that, but I believe that was referring to something else also. But
Yeah. I don't know.
again, be
Anyway,
prepared.
questions, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting close to wrapping it up here. If you guys got any questions about tonight's stream, pop them in the chat right now, and I'll put them up on screen for you over there on YouTube or over here on Rumble. Go ahead and pop them up on screen right now. Please like, share, subscribe, spread this thing far and wide. Click on the QR code up there at the top of the screen for all the links available. visit the merch store. Hey, after Christmas sale, right? There we go. Be greatly appreciated. But by all means, please, if anything, or if nothing at all, drop a comment in the screen over there on YouTube, and drop a comment here on Rumble down in the screen below, and just leave a comment on today's live stream. Please smash that like button and share it. Follow the channel too, would be greatly appreciated. And as we go into the new year, Ghost and I have already discussed on the back channel, we'll probably do a New Year stream. I don't know what the topic will be. I'm sure something will pop up at some point, but plan on us doing one of those. And then after that, we're going to call it, take another break as we get into January, so on and so forth. And we'll come back on. So let me go back over here. Let's see what we got. Shield Maiden Faith, welcome. No, today, Sunday, was a special edition of the stream because of the holidays and other things that happened. So we're here. Let me see here. Questions. Dagnar, okay, no questions there. JJ Johnson, March, interesting month, possibly. I love the Washington, Delaware comms. Okay. Washington.
Not familiar with that.
Yeah, neither am I.
But if you could, send something to Armando regarding that, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There's so much going on right now, JJ. Sorry about that. There's just too much, man. I got my head wrapped around right now, but a little bit more detail would be helpful. So anybody else, any questions, any final questions? Post them up there, throw them up there in the chat. If not, jump on over to YouTube, Truth Table News World. Jump on over to YouTube on the YouTube channel. If you have not done so already, please give me a sub over there. Won't cost you anything. I'm trying to get the numbers up over there on that platform. Hopefully we can get this platform growing going into 2026. I'd greatly appreciate that. Okay. Ghost, you want to take us out of here? Any advice that let me go there. Any advice for the folks here in the audience on as we go into 2026? Because I did put in the thumbnail, preparationness, okay, is key. I can't stress that enough. Preparedness.
I was going to say first thing, preparedness. Yeah.
You guys have to jump on.
Still remain prepared for a time as long as you possibly can. Food, water, essentials, medical supplies, medicines, surplus, over the counter, whatever you can do for as long as you can do. Be prepared.
Okay.
Guns and ammo. Be prepared. Everything. Be prepared. Because
backup generators, solar generators, long-term food, water, all that stuff, especially power sources, batteries, you know, large battery matrices and stuff like that in case the lights go out, which I feel they will. So it's preparedness, folks.
Yeah, if certain things kick off in certain regions, the best way to number one, cut down on the clutter and listen into the bad guys is shut the power down. Everything gets quiet then, for the most part.
Yeah.
And
Ragnar puts a question up here. The voting machine buyout. Do you know anything about that? I don't know anything.
Yeah, there was a company, I think there was a concern put into place to buy them all out so they can stick them in a warehouse and hit them with a sledgehammer eventually. Or
would
destroy
that would that make sense about that? And so they can segue to paper ballots for midterms?
Exactly. You're getting rid of the units that would have to be remanufactured if you're going to try that. And nobody's going to allow that.
There we go. And thank you, Ragnar, for the question.
Yeah, good question.
Great question. Absolutely. By the way, dude, I got dibs on that trench knife. Just putting that out there. I know you said, yeah, you got first dibs. Send pictures on Discord. Okay. I want to see how that handle's looking. And are you throwing in a sheath also as well? Just saying. I don't know. Anyway, Let's go to Sam Spencer. I would also learn what wild edibles are available in your area, as well as
Always a good thing to know.
yeah, as well as everything they said. I don't think this is going to be a short-term problem. No, you're right. I don't think it is. Okay,
Yeah.
JJ over from Finland. Okay, another question here. Thank you for that. It says, so another political party is popping up soon? Question mark. Well,
Let's talk of that.
there's talk of that, and I will tell you this. If you're thinking from a libertarian aspect, I'm going to tell you this. Unless laws change, okay? That's in air quotations, okay? Unless laws change, I can tell you the Libertarian Party, unless they have a lot of funding and a seat at the table, they'll never get one. Just going to put that out there. If you're talking about maybe a MAGA party, I'm not feeling that either unless we see significant changes. I'll just leave it there.
Well, they have to get their shit together if they're going to really have it together and financially backed if you're going to do a third party. I think right now, leaving the globalist operational wing, aka the Democratic Party, and the American Party, aka the non-rhino Republicans, yeah, there's your difference. And that has to finish playing out its eventual game. And it will wind up with the decimation I truly see and understand, and would also believe beyond a certain extent that that party is going to self-destruct because of its own actions and its own level of being compromised. The other party have as much to 2/3 as much, and what's left over is what you've got from a little bit from their side, but a little bit more on the other. Again, if you're talking passionate party politics, those days were dead 20 years ago. It was just a dog and pony show you were buying into. But he had to run under the Republican Party, number one. And knowing that, he also knew, and it was also known by many and then passed on in many ways, that you were dealing with a Republican Party that was basically a bunch of self-serving, compromised, sick and greedy ass rhinos. And maybe you're up to a third now of non. And you have those others who are sitting quietly back. They're diligent. They're always performing at a good level, but you don't hear much from them. Oh, like Marsha Blackburn, good example. And then you have what I would consider her opposite, a douchebag like Lindsey Graham. Lindsey, I'll take another drink, Graham. Another drink or dick. I don't know these days. I hear all kinds of. I'm just saying. I'm just hearing things. Just things. Anyway.
Yeah, he's the other one that's still calling to send Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine to keep fighting that war, man.
Yeah. It's like here's the console. We're gonna put your ass in the field. Have this bottle of scotch, and you drive that missile in there, big guy. Let's see what you can do. Air Force makes me ashamed.
Yeah. All right, folks. All right, we're gonna call it. Thank you guys for popping by. Hope you guys had a great Christmas. Thank you guys for popping in for the special edition. Ghost, thank you so much for popping in here, brother. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Look for another stream next week, folks. And with that, as usual, remember, New Year's is upon us. Okay, get ready. So keep your head on a swivel, keep your powder dry. Above all, God bless. Take care. We will catch you guys on the next one. Love you guys. See you later.
God bless.